We were recently consulted about a murder case. A tree was adjacent to an alleged body disposal fire. This tree, which was cut down and collected in 2018, has a large wound on it. And the question was, is that wound timing consistent with the 2010 disappearance of the victim? To analyze this, we used the xylitron, and actually in court, I was able to show when I testified that if we count backward from the bark from 2018 to 2010 and then move laterally within the 2010 growth ring, we can demonstrate that the fire did in fact happen in 2010, and that is consistent with the timing of the body disposal. Some people find it hard to believe, but wood anatomy actually turns out to be important in real life. In 2001, the National Transportation Safety Board was investigating a mid-air crash between two small planes. They had found wood under a flap of one of the planes, and the investigators sent it to us. And so we carefully extracted that wood and compared that wood to a piece of the known wooden propeller from the other plane. And we were able to determine that they were both, in fact, Sitka spruce. And that helped inform the NTSB to understand how these planes came together and crashed. We've worked with law enforcement agencies all across the country for almost a century now in assisting to combat crime, to combat illegal logging, and to improve the lives of the American people.
So you may think that there's no difference between the wood that comes from a white oak as opposed to the wood that comes from a red oak. But there is an anatomical characteristic in white oak that allows us to use white oak for some purposes that we can't use red oak for. It's very exciting when you see people from all over the world coming here and realizing that we have samples of wood that come from their countries that they have never seen. This collection is pretty diverse, one of the oldest collections in the world, and it has samples that are unique and that they represent wood or species of plants that are not found anymore in the wild. For example, this is one of my favorites here, Lignum vitae, that's the common name. Guaiacum is the genus. This, for example, comes from the Caribbean, and it was unfortunately has been harvested almost to extinction. Illegal trade of wood involves harvesting species that are not allowed to be harvested. Now, it is hard to identify or differentiate these species once you have only the wood. So we have developed wood identification manuals to help those authorities that are in charge of controlling wood trade to be able to identify woods that might look or are different to what they are normally used to recognizing in the legal wood trade market.
Worldwide, global capacity for wood anatomy is fairly small. There aren't that many of us wood anatomy nerds out there. When we are doing our service work, sometimes that service is in service of other countries where they come to us for technical assistance, whether it's for a forensic case or for capacity building to host their scientists here in the Center for Wood Anatomy so they can develop capacity and take it to their home country.